What's going on, everybody? I am John Stamper with John Stamper Media, and welcome to another conversation with this learning series, AI Innovations, Digital Health, and Business Transformation. It has been awesome to spend time with the Scopic team. As I've shared with many of you, one of the things that I have loved about Scopic, quite honestly, is getting able to talk to people all over the world. And we're going to continue that today. And not only today are we going to talk to two other great colleagues at Scopic, but these individuals, we're going to go more on the legal side. And I promise you, everybody, right? I know you hear the word legal. You're like, holy cow, how does that have to deal with custom software and all that stuff? But when we think about the world of AI, and more importantly, when we think about you as a potential company looking to Scopic to build out custom software for your business, as my two guests today are going to share the legal component, especially in this new, somewhat uncharted world of AI, the legal part is so important. So I am very excited and honored today to be with some legal counsel from Scopic. I have with me Başak, Cecen, and I have Joseph Chigwidden, and I hope I got those names right. We practiced them before I came on here. I wanted to honor the both of them. How are you guys doing today?
So we're all good. Thanks for having us, John. So let me begin. This is Başak. So I'm a corporate counsel at Scopic since 2022. I'm based in Turkey. As you said, we're all over the world. And I'll let Joseph introduce himself.
Hi, John. Great to be here. Great to join you. So yes, I am Joseph Chigwidden, legal counsel at Scopic. And our day-to-day role evolves all around risk management and compliance and basically keeping up to speed with all things AI regulations and data privacy and things like that. So excited to chat more about that with you today.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have the both of you. And again, we're on a mission, everybody, to provide as much value as we can through this conversation, because I do think, and I'm curious from both Başak and Joseph, some things that companies really need to think about on the legal side, especially with AI when they're doing their custom builds, that may not always get thought about. You get excited about building your platform, how you're going to be able to service your customers, but this is a really important part. So, Joseph, I was going to start with asking you, as a company is kind of looking to build and AI is becoming more a prominent part of their build, it's really being integrated into their platforms. What are some of the most critical, I guess, legal and compliance things that pretty much right off the gate they should think about as they're going, through this build process?
Sure. And John, I think from day one, we're looking at nailing down the discovery phase of a project. So understanding the key legal risks early from day one. It can often happen quite organically when we're drafting and negotiating service agreements with clients, etc. During that process, we're thinking about sort of data privacy and protection. And, for example, if any personal data use will need to comply with laws like GDPR or California's Consumer Privacy Act and those sorts of regulations. And then, working with other teams at Scopic, with operations, we also look at how the AI solution or the idea for the AI solution that we're creating, how does it deal with bias and fairness, and how is the training data sourced? So, could the algorithm inadvertently discriminate? And some regulations, like in Europe, for example, those regulations even mandate bias audits for certain AI. So understanding where is my solution going to be used? For example, hiring tools. The idea is that we bake fairness checkpoints into the project plan. So, and we work with the client to understand, okay, this is the solution, and these are the steps we need to take during the discovery phase. And obviously getting to that sticky point, which is accountability and liability, that's always the big concern with AI. It's important that we clarify that up front. And so that's why the discovery phase is so important. And so in custom AI solutions, who is responsible if something goes wrong? And it's about performing those comprehensive risk assessments from the start with the client, documenting everything during that discovery period. And one of the things we've actually found is that by setting those guardrails early with the client, we align the project with the legal requirements and ethical best practices rather than scrambling to retrofit compliance later. So it's important that we're working hand in hand with the client from the beginning. And that helps to also build trust from the ground up. So irrespective of the AI sort of aspect of the project, you're helping to build trust from the beginning. And so we're both aware, Scopic and the client, we're both aware there is this aspect to this project which is called AI. It seems scary, but it's not so scary. If we get the compliance right from the beginning, we document everything, the clients and end users then feel confident that their AI-powered software is safe, it's fair, and it's lawful. And so in saying that, we sort of get to a situation where we're all happy that things are compliant and fair.
So Başak, in a second, I want to get to you about some of the data privacy laws, but Joseph, to just kind of wrap that thought up. So if I'm a business and I'm looking to custom build, and I know that building AI into that is super important, are you essentially saying that I can go into that process knowing and trusting that if I don't know a lot, if anything, right? Like I know AI will be important to get into my build, but I have no idea in regards to what the legal ramifications are on the compliance side. In those discovery calls, I can meet with you guys and feel confident to know that I'm going to get that information. Because I know that kind of, I'm kind of putting myself in the shoes of a business that's going to get this build done. And I'm kind of thinking about these early stages and all these things. And if I know that that's the case, it certainly kind of allows me to take a big, deep breath to say, okay, the Scopic legal team is going to help me guide there. I don't have to worry about that. I just have to kind of share with them my vision and we kind of go from there. Safe to say?
Well, that's right, exactly. And so we've baked into our agreements this understanding that AI, liability, etc. It's there from the start, and then it's about having a conversation with the client. The meeting of the minds, that's really important. All stakeholders are happy, and then we move forward from there. But as I said earlier, it's all about during that discovery phase, we're all on the same page. We document everything, and that helps us to avoid helps both parties to avoid any problems in the future.
Awesome. All right. So Başak, I wanted to ask you, they're going through the development process to kind of build this out. Talk a little bit about like how they can ensure that they're prepping properly for data privacy laws. Like I have here like GDPR, HIPAA, or CCPA, especially when AI is going to be involved when they're doing data collecting and things like that. So if you could touch on kind of that process of like how that's built in to the planning stages for some of the builds.
I think it's one of the most practical challenges every software company and their clients deal with regularly. So at Scopic, we develop software across many industries like healthcare, e-commerce, media and entertainment, and finance. So we're constantly navigating different data privacy regimes, like you said, HIPAA for the healthcare clients in the US and CCPA in California, and if needed, GDPR in Europe. So the key for us is adopting what we call a compliance by design mindset. So from the early stages, we have to ask, where is this data coming from? Who owns it? Do we have the right to use it for training or inference? And then we identify the legal frameworks that apply. For instance, HIPAA requires a heightened compliance. So if the application will collect health-related data from US users, we immediately flag HIPAA. And we'll help the client understand what that really means for the build. And that includes implementing specific secure user authentications, encryption standards, and very clear audit trials. Let's say we're building an AI that helps physicians treat patient symptoms. So now we're not only dealing with protected patient data, but we're also relying on some algorithms to make these decisions. And this sets a new layer of responsibility. In those cases, we typically map out how data flows through the system, where it's stored, who can access it, and whether it's being used to train models. And if there's a third-party AI engine involved, like an external API for language processing, we also assess their compliance posture. Like, Do they honor data deletion requests? Do they use the data to train their own models? And if the answers are not clear, we push back or suggest some alternatives. And in terms of data sets, if a client wants to use a script online data to train a model, we need to assess whether that use aligns with the website's terms of service or if it could breach copyright or privacy rules. And after we identify these things and what sensitive data the software will handle and how it will flow, then we apply the minimum necessary principle. So this is just collecting only what we truly need and nothing more than that. And by doing that, we also use the data anonymization methods. These really highly mitigate the privacy risks. It usually involves altering, encrypting, or removing any personal identifiers from the collected data sets.
So Joseph, if you're a leader or a business owner watching this and you know that you want to do a custom build, maybe one of the questions that they're having as they were listening to Başak is, do they need to get their legal team involved? Right? I mean, obviously, you all are there to kind of help plan all this out to make sure that the customers and those that you are serving are paying attention to these things on the legal and compliance side, especially with AI. But what are your thoughts and recommendations for organizations to get their legal team involved in well so that everybody is on the same page and there's that confidence level from the beginning that once everything is built, that you're going to be able to cross all those T's and dot those I's?
Right.
That's almost actually. Go ahead.
So, and I'm not biased. I'm not just biased saying this, John, but this is really important. Like a business's legal team should have a front row seat really during the AI platform sort of development, because it's not only giving peace of mind to the clients, but it's giving peace of mind to the business itself. In practice at Scopic, we're involved on a sort of cross-functionality basis. So from sales kickoff meetings onwards, we're helping to map out what laws apply. So for example, flagging that an AI finance solution could trigger compliance with SEC or FTC AI regulations, or as Başak mentioned earlier, those health-related platforms, for example, they have to adhere to HIPAA and FDA software rules and things like that. So again, legal should have a front row seat. And our role is really to translate those regulations into design requirements. So if Europe's GDPR regulations apply, then we need to ensure that the design includes a way, for example, for users to withdraw consent or request data deletion. So it's about basically the meeting of the minds between developers and between legal, and legal being able to translate what is required under the law to the developers, and then the developers go forward and sort of bake those requirements into their work. And we collaborate with operations on things like terms of service, data use notices, AI guidelines, etc., that are built into the product. And we're ensuring that from the very beginning, our contracts include those indemnities, the warranties and disclosures related to the AI use. So the client and Scopic, the business and the client, we're all happy. We're all on the same page. So it goes back again to walking hand in hand with the client from the beginning during that discovery phase. And, importantly, a business's legal team should be guiding that AI risk management framework during planning. And then it continues throughout the build. It continues post launch. So we push for documentation at each step on how the AI makes decisions. We set some red lines, what's acceptable use, what's unacceptable, etc. So, for example, preventing a marketing AI from using protected personal data without consent. So we have to have that consent box show up so a user can say yes, no. And by being proactive, legal can establish those internal policies as well. So, for the responsible use of AI, and even an incident response plan is strongly recommended, and legal teams in all businesses should be implementing those. But our role really in a software sense, we're the safety engineer. So we've got our software developers, our engineers, etc. We're the safety engineer.
I love that.
We have the high vis, the hard hat. We're saying, okay, this is okay, this is not okay. You should wear the harness, and etc. So we're catching those pitfalls early. We're getting in front of problems. We're ensuring that contracts and user policies cover AI elements, and basically keeping the whole team aware of, what is a space that's always evolving. And so when we have this alignment internally, that typically translates to alignment with clients externally. And that means when, an AI solution goes live, it not only works well, but also operates within well-defined legal guardrails that the client and Scopic are happy with. So I think ultimately, yeah, it's about legal counsel has a really central role through these development projects.
I love that. So we need to get front row tickets for all the legal team anytime you're doing the build, which I love that whole analogy. And Başak, I think you were going to say something as well, kind of this question before we go on to the next.
I was just going to say having the counterparty's legal team would be a bonus for us because we usually negotiate with the businessman or some technical people from the client. So if they could collaborate like we do, because we really have a very good collaboration with our technical head and technical team. And if that also happens in a counterparty, so that makes the negotiations and the development and everything very easy and straightforward and understandable for every staker.
Yeah, I'm glad you share that. And I want to say something on this before we move to the next, because as I've shared with some of the other guests and with the Scopic team, like I also, as an entrepreneur, spent some time building a custom platform. And I love the point that you make, Başak, is that there have been schools of thought over the years, right? That if you get the legal team involved, it can kind of gum up the process, right? It's going to get in the way of like the user experience and all of those things. And I think what I love, first of all, the fact that the two of you are here, I think says a lot about how integrated you are with the tech team. The other side of it that I learned from my own experience is that if you don't take that time, like you mentioned up front, Joseph, to do this, then you're going to have to do it on the back end. And this, when I did this was years ago, AI was not even a thing. So I can't even imagine now just the importance of both you all integrated as well as a company's legal team integrated on the front end. I feel like that makes things so much smoother. And before we go on to the next question as well, Başak, I wanted to ask the both of you, kind of as I was thinking about this, is there's also that ongoing piece, right? I mean, one of the things that I remember from the development is that you can plan, you do discovery in the beginning, things can shift and change, right? You might get 3 months down the road, 5 months down the road, and maybe something changes in your business. You want to add something. I would think that always having you there and your own legal team to be able to bounce those ideas off so you can keep things moving is very important as well. Can you talk about that? Maybe Joseph, will go with you, and then Başak, just kind of on as the development's going on, you guys there as a resource, even after the discovery phase.
Well, that's right. And so if you are there during the discovery phase, you understand from the beginning the project, okay, this is what the client wants, this is what the client needs. If you're there from the beginning, answering questions about concerns that operations might bring to you, oh, we're having, issues with using certain data, what should we do, etc., or we're using a third-party AI software, what should we do? Okay, then it becomes much easier for us to step in and say, and speak to the client directly and say, John, is this what you're after? Okay, I just want you to be aware that these are the implications. This is what we need to understand. What's your target market? These are the regulations that apply to that target market. And so then, you step back and hopefully that problem solves. And then once the solution goes live, you again understand you've got to be there as well post live, post launch. You need to be assisting again with, keeping the client aware of certain regulations that are evolving. For example, even next year, there are regulations in California that apply from January the 1st, 2026. So we have to document for solutions based in California for Californian users. We have to document where the data comes from, and there are a number of requirements with regards to documenting where the data is, what it's using, what data is being used, etc. And so again, we have to stay ahead and just, raise the hand every now and again and just say, hey, John, look, your solution is requiring this sort of documentation. We'd advise X, Y, Z. Now, it's not necessarily providing them legal advice. It's just walking hand in hand. As a service provider, this is what we do, and this is what we think would be beneficial for you as well going forward.
Yeah, super helpful. Başak, anything on that before we move on to the next?
Excellent.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about AI bias, the potential risks. I'm curious of your thoughts on this, Başak, and more importantly, like how does a company handle this, and what are some of the things that you guys do to really kind of map that out and plan ahead of time so that you can minimize those risks.
So AI bias and explainability are the two of the most hotly debated topics in tech law, especially right now, and that's for a good reason, because we have seen all these headlines, AI systems that discriminate in hiring, or they deny services unfairly, or produce results no one can understand or even challenge. At Scopic, we take those risks very seriously and tackle them in both technical design and, again, from our side, compliance planning phases. To begin with bias, so when we build AI systems, especially those that affect people's access to opportunities, healthcare, or any type of resources, we start with a very clear principle. So the model must not reinforce unfair outcomes. And we do a few things. First, we begin with asking our clients about the training data. So where does it come from? Is it representative? Has it been tested for skew or imbalance? And if there is a risk of inherited bias, we recommend either cleaning the data set or supplementing it with more balanced inputs if possible. And on explainability, this one is a bit tricky because not all AI models are easily interpretable. But even with complex models like neural networks, we try to build explanation layers to allow users and even regulators to understand the rationale behind the decision. So we try to ask why this is a recommendation, and why is this recommendation made? What factors contributed to this prediction, and etc. And from a purely legal standpoint, Joseph and I closely monitor the laws that demand explainability. So currently, European Union's AI Act includes provisions for transparency and record keeping for high-risk AI systems. And in the US, we are also seeing early signs of similar expectations. There are FTC guidance and state-level bills. For instance, now New York City's new law on AI hiring tools, it requires bias audits even. So we view it as a very positive guide. And we also do our own AI due diligence in the company. We've got several criteria. It also includes ethical standards and client-facing risk like accuracy, misleading or harmful outputs. And we also review the autonomy and risk tolerance all these tools have. So we take a dual track approach, I guess. So legal side focuses on detection and prevention, while we ensure the documentation, accountability, and policy alignment. But we also involve our clients because managing AI bias and explainability is, I think, a shared responsibility. So the more proactive we are, the more ethical and defensible our systems will become.
So I'm sitting here as a business owner listening to the two of you, and what keeps going through my mind is you're sharing all of these potential things with a custom build and AI and compliance and legal. I'm just thinking, man, is it great that they would have you guys, right? Because there's just so much involved with this, right? And I think that it's impossible. You mentioned it kind of earlier, Başak, where it really is difficult for a company to always know what's going to happen, to really kind of walk that fine line between making sure you're compliant, making sure you're looking at things through the legal lens, but then also providing a great user experience, for your clients. And so there's a lot that's going on here. But yeah, I mean, definitely, that's what's going through my mind, is just a big relief that the two of you exist and you're there as part of the process. And I think that kind of leads to the last thing, Joseph, that I wanted to ask you, which is AI compliance. It would be nice to think that we could snap our fingers and it's going to stay static, right, for the next 3 to 4 years. But you know that that's not the case. It's going to continue to change. It's going to continue to evolve. So again, I'm a business owner. I'm looking to get a custom build. What are some things that you all will do to essentially future-proof the platform and the software so that as things change with AI compliance, the customer can really have that confidence to know that they'll be good kind of as time evolves with their product?
Right. I mean, it's an interesting question because I think, particularly in the software development space, flexibility is key. It's from the client's perspective, from the developer's perspective, things are evolving, and that includes AI regulations and laws that are evolving to meet this new technology. And fundamentally, here at Scopic, we don't hand off a finished product. We don't wash our hands once a launch is made. We help to educate our clients on AI oversight and regulatory compliance, and that's through those fairly organic conversations through the discovery period, through development, etc. And ultimately, we try to keep that dialogue open post-launch. And part of the reason for this is that, as you said, John, like, compliance is not a one-time event anymore. It's an ongoing process. But yes, staying ahead of these regulations, it's a big part of our job, and it's something we do plan for, so our client software remains compliant for years to come. And one strategy here is building with an eye on the horizon. So we align our development practices with the emerging frameworks and the likely future rules, not just what's on the books today. So, for example, even before certain AI laws become mandatory, we voluntarily follow certain principles that are or maybe in the EU's AI Act. So the EU has certain proposals put forward, and it's things like conducting risk assessments, maintaining documentation, etc. And that's a big part of our role. And this means that the software has compliance baked in, and that often exceeds the current minimum requirements, so that in the future, when the requirements do tighten, that when the software is more adaptable. And I think another aspect of future-proofing those solutions is that continuous monitoring and update readiness. And I think it's a culture, it's an attitude approach, right? And it's about we can't be treating compliance as a one and done task. And instead, our team really sets up processes to regularly audit the AI systems and data practices, even after deployment. So Başak and I are continually auditing projects, and understanding, okay, what licenses are applied, what rules are being applied, etc. This helps to keep us up to date. Like, if a new state law or industry regulation comes out, and they do come fast these days, particularly from California, we're quick to assess the impacts and get ahead of the requirements. And then, because we do build that flexibility into our systems, adding a new consent screen for end users, for example, that's not so burdensome because it can be done through a general update rather than a complete rebuild. So we're there sort of, from the beginning through the development phase, post-launch. And a big part of staying ahead of the curve in this space is that, as I said before, it is a lot about culture and the attitude. And so we've invested a lot in our own culture internally at Scopic, where everyone from developers to project managers through to management, we're staying relatively educated on AI governance and as those rules are evolving. And part of that is through us providing feedback internally on the processes that we apply. And so all these steps ensure that when those regulations do evolve, and they will, whether it's around privacy, fairness, accountability, our clients are therefore a step ahead. Because we ultimately want a situation where our clients are confident that their custom AI solution won't just meet yesterday's standards, but it's ready to comply with tomorrow's as well. And this really helps with giving our clients that competitive edge, particularly in a landscape where the rules are changing all the time. So, as I said, from the beginning through to development and then post-launch, as well as creating that culture internally.
Awesome. So everybody, Joseph and Başak do not know this, but in order to kind of show the power of AI, but more importantly, the insight of these two and the legal counsel at Scopic, when I was putting together this episode and I was thinking about some questions, what I did was I actually used AI to generate the questions, right? But the reason why I did that was because I wanted to share with all of you that although AI has become this powerful tool, it still requires, the insight of individuals that have a lot of experience when it comes to answering these questions. So for the sake of today's learning series episode, like the questions that I asked, obviously, I could use AI to generate those. If we didn't have Joseph and Başak on here with their insight, with their leadership in this legal and compliance space, we probably would have been done with this episode about like 27 minutes ago because there would have been nothing to share. So I kind of did that because I really wanted to show the power of what it means to utilize the technology and build it into your software build, particularly AI, but the real importance of having true legal, counsel and guidance, when it comes to this team. So I don't know if you knew that, Joseph and Başak, but I wanted to kind of, surprise you guys. I knew you were up for it when I put together those questions, and I think you guys did a great job. So before we wrap, just any final thoughts to share with everybody. This has been great. Başak, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, it's been great for us too. So thanks for having us here. I just want to reiterate, perhaps we said several times, but we really value compliance. It's not just written in our policies. It's not just in our audits or the checklists that we have. So we really believe in compliance and Scopic, and we really implement all these policies we write, and all these audits are follow-up by us and our management team. And I think internal collaboration is the key, and the collaboration with the client is the second most important factor to be compliant constantly.
Yeah, so well said. Joseph, any final thoughts?
Yes, I think it's about companies understanding that when it does come to building an AI custom solution, it's not something to necessarily be feared. It's something to adapt to and to work with legal counsel and understanding the regulations that need to apply, and then baking that in from the start to your solution. So through the discovery phase, through to development, and then the post-live processes. It's all about walking hand in hand with legal counsel and understanding what regulations apply.
Absolutely. AI is a great tool, but as we've kind of, I think, gone through this learning series with all the team from Scopic, it does take a team of experts and those that live it and breathe it, and most importantly, know how to take your vision as a business and an entrepreneur and put it out in the world so that you can, serve those that you want to serve, and have the confidence to know that you've got a great team like Scopic behind you. So Joseph and Başak, thank you so much. This has been awesome, and I'm excited to continue this learning series. And until next time, we'll talk to you soon, everybody. Thanks again.
Thanks, John.
Bye.